Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Due to the negative propaganda against the Quran and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has become imperative upon us to spread the message of the Quran, inshallah. Therefore, Al-Hikmat kindly requests your support to pledge and sponsor 100,000 Quran drives on CDs. Join us sponsoring Qurans on CDs for free distribution fi sabilillah for Muslims and non-Muslims worldwide. You can also sponsor on behalf of family members and relatives that have passed away as Sadaqah Jariyah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
We pray in Salah, right? Where you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property. Sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years ago he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Al-Hikmah TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Generous brothers and sisters are kindly requested to give from their zakat and sadaqah to Al-Hikmat services so we can provide Islamic materials and literature to brothers and sisters in correctional institutions, plus to new Muslims and non-Muslims who are needy and seeking to learn Islam, inshallah. For more information, contact Al-Hikmah office at 954-986-0158 or visit our website www.alhikmat.com. You can also make checks payable to Al-Hikmat Services Inc., or you can donate with a credit card on PayPal, www.alhikmat.com.
Al-Hikmah TV presents a great way to spread the Sunnah. Have a Sunnah attitude. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in chapter 33, verse 21, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, لَقَدْ كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةً حَسَنًا, that ye indeed in the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a beautiful pattern of conduct. Join us for our 100,000 t-shirt drive. For more details or to place an order, contact Al-Hikmat Services at 1-800-804-0267, or you can visit us on our website at www.alhikmattv.com. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrackport. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Al-Hikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. It's a pleasure to have with us in the studio Reverend Jack Branford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to be together.
And it's always a pleasure to meet. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, it is.
Reverend Jack is presently the president of the Interfaith Council of Greater Hollywood, and he's also the Interfaith Chaplain at Trust Bridge Hospice Services. So we're going to hear a lot more from Reverend about his interfaith services, and he's also the Reverend at the First United Church of Christ. So we're going to hear a lot about Reverend and his services. He's involved in a lot of community services. But before doing that, Reverend, could you share with our audience? We got an audience, a worldwide audience.
That's
and in
wonderful.
today's social media and technology, you know, the sky is the limit.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
The communications are wonderful.
So tell us a little bit, where are you originally from?
I was born in northern New Jersey, and I grew up in a large suburban church which was committed to diversity, and it was a great place to grow up. The adults were committed to the kids, so we had a really wonderful time. But I credit my mother with my decision to go into ministry and my really philosophy of life. My mother was always committed to the underdog. Whoever seemed to be the person who was not getting what they needed or was being excluded, that's where she was giving her time and attention. And I think watching that rubbed off on me. So
at what age did you get involved in the ministry?
Well, our church encouraged us very early. We would go on mission trips to Appalachia and work on homes, or go to the inner city and volunteer at Head Start programs, you know, raise money for toys for the kids, all that kind of thing. So they started us early in trying to do things for other people. So.
And what church were you involved with at that age and stage in life?
Well, at that time, my church was called the Reformed Church in America, which has a Dutch background. But it was from the original Dutch people who came in the 1600s for business. They were not strongly religious. They were faithful, but they were there to make money. But at the same time, they seemed to have this commitment to taking care of people as well.
After you graduated as a minister,
yes.
And where did you study?
There's a seminary in New Brunswick, New Jersey. That denomination started Rutgers College, and the two schools split apart after only a short time in the 1700s, and were independent.
Maybe it might be interesting to let our audience know what's the procedure. You know, in the Islamic world, people have a different procedure. They go to an Islamic organized institute or Islamic university, and you got the whole 9 yards. But in the Christian field, and what you experienced, what was it like, and what do you have to do to become a reverend or a pastor, as the case may be?
Well, it's the same in most of what we call the mainline denominations, like my church, the United Church of Christ, or Presbyterian, or Lutheran. It's very much the same, that they encourage you to get a good secular education that is very broad. They want you to be well educated in a lot of fields.
Interesting.
And then when you take your seminary education, it is not strictly religious either. They want a very broad understanding. They don't want people to come out with a narrow education.
Because at the end of the day, when you hold a religious degree, you are going to be preaching and teaching people of a wide variety of background.
Yes. Yes.
So, so when you qualified in the seminary, what
was the how do they ordain you? Or what's this whole process?
Well, it begins with your home church. They have to approve you and believe that you have gifts for ministry, that God has given you these gifts. And then within the organization of the denomination, you have to pass their judgment as well, that you seem to be qualified. And then the school, you have to have good grades and perform well and graduate with a degree. And then you go back to your home church, and the denomination ordains you in your home church.
So it's the denomination that ordains you as a pastor.
Yes.
Okay. Not necessarily the degree that you got from the seminary.
Right. You can have a degree and not ever be ordained if you so choose, or if they choose, if they decide in the end you really don't qualify for pastoral ministry, they may say no.
So if someone has the ability and the potential and the knowledge, could the denominational organization ordain that person?
They could, but it's rare.
They don't normally.
They really like you to have the degrees and to put the work and the time in.
That brings me to another question, Reverend. What's the difference with pastor being ordained as a pastor and being ordained as a reverend?
I don't think there's any difference.
So if you call someone a pastor or you call them a reverend, it's the same thing?
My official title is reverend, but reverend means something like ambassador.
Okay.
And so I am not necessarily a reverend when I'm at a picnic. I'm still a pastor, you know.
So when you graduate with a degree as a reverend?
Yes.
Interesting.
Right, but I prefer to use, when people address me, I'm more comfortable if they would say pastor, because that's more of my role.
And the denominational organization ordains you as the pastor?
Yes, but my degree says that I'm a reverend.
You're a reverend. Right. And the difference with a priest now?
Well, the priest would be a Catholic or a Greek Orthodox church, in which the requirements are completely different. And
the expectations are also different.
Yes, they are. It's my understanding that the educational requirements may be similar, but I can't speak to what
so maybe it's the same process, but different
it's probably
syllabus.
Similar, yeah.
A different syllabus, because it's the Roman Catholic and they're more orthodox, if I would want to put it like that. Am I correct to say they're more orthodox?
No, I don't think so. But they have their own doctrine and their own procedures, which may be very different from a Protestant tradition.
Okay.
As well as the Greek Orthodox or other traditions.
So which was the first church that you pastored in?
The first church that I pastored in was in upstate New York. It was in a high-tech area where IBM was extremely powerful. Everyone in the church. I was an assistant pastor. We had hundreds of people, and they all worked for IBM. So there was all this technical talk.
So you had to be very technical with these people.
No, they didn't want me to be technical.
They wanted to be technical.
They wanted to be technical, but I was there for their help with their personal things and their worship, which they did want to give a break to when they're at the church. But at the same time, I was the president of a ministry to migrant farm worker people in the Hudson Valley. They came to pick onions, apples, grapes at the vineyards. And so we would try to provide doctor's appointments for them, eye doctors, legal help.
How many years ago that was, Reverend?
Quite a while. I would say that was in the late 1980s and early 1990s. But the organization still exists because many of the former farm workers have settled in that area and sometimes still need
So you had a lot of immigrants, as you said, who will come, and that's how they will get settled here, and I suppose there were immigration packages for that category of people. And you hear a lot of talk about a lot of people who got their immigration status in the United States of America through many of these farming programs.
Yes.
So were you involved in that?
We weren't involved in the. We would refer them to free legal help to help with their immigration and their status. That wasn't something that we did directly. We were more the hands-on actual services, but we would make sure that they could get in touch with it. And 5 denominations contributed money and volunteers, and it was a good.
That's a lot of good social services and community services, I must say.
Right, and the farmers were very much on board because they knew it helped them to have the workers know that they could get help or get care when they needed it.
What country did they come from? What countries, basically? Majority?
Well, we had a lot of Jamaican people and a lot of various Latino people. I can't speak to which countries because it was a mixture of Latino.
But majority Latinos and Jamaicans, etc. Wonderful. So before you came to South Florida, and before you became the pastor here at the First United Church of Christ, did you serve in any other church before?
Yes.
After that one in upstate New York?
Yes. After that, I was in a church in Rockland County, New York, which was in an area where in the 20s and 30s there had been small Jewish hotels. And in the 1970s, New York State put out a lot of the people who were living in hospitals for the mentally ill. And they were, sent out onto the streets with their medications, but not enough social workers or people to help them supervise. And a lot of them ended up living in these single occupancy rooms and needing, again, a lot more social services. So overnight, this village named Spring Valley became a place where there were a lot of people needing help. So our church hosted the, in those days we called it a soup kitchen every day. They ate a meal and took a meal with them. We did sheltering in the wintertime so people wouldn't have to sleep on the streets.
So you are blessed with that experience from the famine days and the immigration services that people came to this country to a time like now, eh?
Yeah.
What kind of difference do you see from then to now? Is it chalk and cheese, as we would say?
Well, that congregation was wonderful because it was very diverse. We had a lot of Jamaican and Haitian families. That area had small homes that were built after World War II and good schools. And as Anglo people moved out, Jamaican and Haitian families would move in. They could afford the homes, and the children were in an excellent school. And so my church had a lot of members, and I especially had a group of Jamaican women would take very good care of me to make sure I had my curry goat and my rice and peas, and especially my rum cake. So every New Year's.
You are familiar with the Caribbean food for many years now.
Yes, they took good care of me. So it was a wonderful congregation. But the times then felt more welcoming. There were a lot of Latino people there as well. And I would take my sons. They would have little storefront restaurants, and I would take them to eat at the different places. And we were, 6'4" tall coming in the door, and they tended to be shorter people, and they always made sure that we were well taken care of and welcomed, and, they wanted Pastor to make sure he enjoyed it.
So do you think the people were more loving at that time? My reason for asking that, in the present situation here in the United States of America, I mean, I don't want to say this, but we are going to be very realistic and practical. I'm very optimistic. I'm very much into multicultural, multi-faith. So I'm into the optimistic aspect. But because this is a talk show, we've got viewers all over the world who look at this. We want to be able for them to better understand what's really happening. So do you see, and in your understanding, were there more love and less hate? Or do we have more love and less love and more hate now? Because, you look at the present situation, there's a lot of people who speak a lot of hate, a lot of prejudice. I mean, I don't know if it's just political or it's because that's how a lot of people are. How do you weigh this?
Well, in that day, I don't know that I would say it was more loving, but people were just less suspicious and less fearful.
Okay.
And
They were more welcoming.
Yeah, they were more welcoming. They weren't showing this kind of fear that caused them to step back or put up a wall. They seemed more willing to make it a community where I've thought about this for hours and hours, whether are we hardwired to be suspicious of other people, or is there something in us that causes our first reaction to be suspicious and to want to keep people away? I don't know, because over time, different times in histories and countries, it seems easy to fan that and to speak with bigoted language and even hateful language, as you say. And I'm very uncomfortable with that, and it's always been a part of my ministry to try to help people to join together and understand each other. And it's foreign to me to see this desire to step back and to say, I don't want anything to do with you, or get away, or you're not welcome here. It's not a country I recognize as mine when I see that behavior or hear that language.
And I know you are a person that are blessed with the quality of being very multicultural. I mean, welcoming different cultures, and you have been very much, and you are very much involved in interfaith, and hence you are very considerate to people of different cultures and different faiths. So how long now have you been involved in interfaith activities? How many years now were you?
Well, 10 years here in South Florida, but before that, I've always been somewhat, but it's more involved in providing services to people, food and clothing and the legal aid and that sort of thing. But I've always been interested in principle. For instance, I used to take the boys to different kinds of restaurants all the time. I always remember a Father's Day, I took them to an Ethiopian restaurant in Montclair, New Jersey, which was wonderful. I just ordered the sampler so that they could try all of this food, and they grew up very comfortable.
You had a lot of bananas, right?
No, it was an amazing different kind of food. It was all vegetarian, and you ate with crepes, not with utensils, and the boys loved it. So they have always been comfortable around people of different cultures and willing to try different food. In fact, my middle son, who graduated from Rensselaer Polytechnic University, was inducted into the Indian Students Association.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, because he got along very well with the Indian people and loved them. And when he would go out to eat with a group of other students, they would say to him, you put your name on the list because they'll call the white man first.
Oh, my goodness.
and we'll get served. But he went to all their events and things. So
he likes Indian food. Eh?
Yes, he likes it. He likes all food.
Right.
But particularly Indian. And so my sons have never been fearful or suspicious, or they're always have been happy to try anything new.
So with all your religious background and interfaith and social services activities, when did you come across Muslims or started having any experience with Islam and the Islamic community, etc.?
That was with you.
Oh, truly?
Yes. I did not have contact with many Muslims in New York or New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
It was more other groups, but it was here 10 years ago when I moved here, and my church members asked me to join the Interfaith Council. That I met you and made friends with other people at Darul Uloom, and that's
opened up the whole new Muslim world.
Right.
And then around that time, in the last 10, 15 years, it's when Islam and Muslims have been a big talk about in the media and, all around the place, and especially with all these radical things going on with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, a lot of things came about. I mean, that's the negative part of the minority and the extremism, but then I think it opened up a lot more doors for people like yourself to meet the mainstream, regular, moderate, liberal, practicing good Muslim.
Right, right. I was listening to a radio program on public radio yesterday, and the Muslim man from Egypt was saying Muslims are only 3% of the population in the U.S., but we occupy 70% of the political talk. So
Wow.
he said we're making our mark.
That is interesting.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense. That's reality, yeah?
Yeah.
It's interesting how that could work. And I mean, I hope it's for the better. You know, every time things like that happen, there are smart people out there who would look at the good of it.
Yes, and this man who was speaking, his last name is Yusuf. He was a heart surgeon in Egypt, but now he's a comedian, and he was on The Daily Show for a while, and he's written several books. So he uses comedy to try to build connections with different kinds of people and help them understand.
So I would like our audience to hear a little more about your experience with the Trust Bridge Hospice Services, but we got to go on a short break.
Okay.
However, before we go on this short commercial break, Reverend, could you share for an audience, because we got an audience, again, as I said, very worldwide and very multicultural, reach all over the world, what is your perspective of Muslims and Islam, your little experience that you have had and what you see happening?
Well, again, because you and your people are the people that I know, you feel just like me. You know, I find that every faith has its spectrum of people who believe that they're the only ones that God speaks to, all the way to, you know, the other spectrum of God speaks to everyone. And I find when I meet people of different faiths, I feel very comfortable because I can tell where they are on the spectrum, and if they feel like me, where we say in interfaith, one God, many paths, I'm happy with that.
You mean and you have people who think they are the only people on earth, and there's some who think they're the only creation of God, everybody else are not from God. Right. Well, it's sad, eh?
Well, yes, and unfortunately within our faiths we will split apart and exclude each other. I've had discussions with other Christian people where I've said, really, you are the only people that God speaks to. You're the only ones who practice the faith properly. None of the rest of us do it. It's only you. And they believe that.
Oh, within the faith, huh?
Yeah, within the faith.
Oh.
You know, there are Christian people who believe that I am completely on the wrong path and don't know what I'm talking about. And in fact, I'm leading people astray by what I teach and what I practice.
By being liberal and moderate, if I don't want to put it like that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's something that exists in all faiths, as you said.
It is.
It's really a weakness of human beings. Maybe it's a satanic thing, that Satan tried to influence these people to think that you are exclusive, you are the only people, which will propel hate and propel that seclusion kind of thing.
Well, it's when your ego is tied up in your faith, it's easy to listen to the message of I am special, and God loves only me, and God hates those people, and I guess it speaks to something within human beings, but you know that the ego is the greatest enemy to true faith.
And you know, in the Quran, God says about Satan, when Satan said that he is better than Adam, I am better than him. I was created from fire, and he was created from clay, and fire is superior to clay. So, and I think that's the little scenario that we see, people thinking that I'm better than him, I am the chosen one, and that's what leads to that arrogance, and that it develops hate, it develops all these different areas. And you see, that brings us to another topic, and I know we're running out of time for the commercial break, but that brings us to the topic why you have had so many wars in the name of religion. People accuse religion for being the reason for wars, but I mean, people like you and myself have always defended that. I always believe it's not the religion, it's the people who use the religion, and out of their personal agenda and ego.
Right.
They use the power that they have in the church, in the religion, in the synagogue, in the mosque, wherever in the temple,
Right.
to take advantage of other people.
Yes.
And that's very sad, Reverend.
It's very sad. And it seems to me that there are some people who have a personality that for some reason needs things to be set in a box. They need it made very clear to them that this is the way you must believe, this is God's will. But if you have the personality that you don't need things to be like that you can be like a stream of water where things flow and ebb, and you understand it this way today and this way tomorrow, but you're able to trust in God and know that everything will be all right. You don't have to have it set like that. That's to me a more faithful way to be than to be committed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the way it is.
No, that's well said. So I think we got to go on a short break here now.
Okay.
So we have been speaking to Reverend Jack, and I have to make sure I get his name correct, Branford, who is the pastor and reverend at the First United Church of Christ, and he's also the interfaith chaplain at Trust Bridge Hospice Services. When we come back after the short break, we want to talk a little more Trust Bridge Hospice Services and what kind of interfaith services our good friend and Reverend Jack offers to the people and the community. So stay tuned.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Carapie, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrack Fort. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
This is our grand opening, our formal opening of Al-Hikmat.
Give a little update on Alhikmat because this is the formal opening. It's about Alhikmat. Why we are here in Trinidad, what is our purpose, what we hope to achieve, inshallah.
Al-Hikmat is such a beautiful journey which has such a powerful name which is rooted in wisdom. But when I thought about it, there's perhaps one word better to describe this in conjunction, and it is Hikmah, or service.
And I saw all religion, Catholics, I saw Jews, I saw everybody, and they were so comfortable.
While in America they were burning mosques and destroying mosques, you were building bridges. You were building bridges with the Jews. You were building bridges with the Christians. You were building bridges with the Anglicans. And you were doing something that very few were doing.
But are we doing our part in stepping out of our khutbah, in stepping out of our masjid, in stepping out of our madras? Are we doing our part to go and reclaim the true Islam that Trinidad and Tobago should see? Take notice. Sajjal ana Arabi. Take note, I am Arab. Or Sajjal ana Muslim. Take note that I am Muslim. And this is the truth of what it should be. You see, this is why I am so pleased to come here today, to support the work of Al-Hikmat.
Welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. And again, it's a pleasure to have with us in the studio Reverend Jack Branford, who is the pastor at the First United Church of Christ and the Interfaith Chaplain at Trust Bridge Hospice Services. So we had a wonderful conversation with the Reverend before the break, and now we want to talk a little bit about his personal services and community services with his church and with his interfaith services at this hospice facility. So Reverend, what does your church do additional to what the normal churches do? Like what extra services you do? I mean, I don't know if that's a correct question, but...
Well, the main thing that this particular church does is they have a little thrift shop that people donate a lot of things to, especially clothing. And any homeless person who comes, as many times during the week as they would like to, they're given free clothing. And then they're directed to other places that they might get food at Jubilee Kitchen or get bus passes or that kind of thing.
That's a nice service. That's a wonderful service.
Yes. So people know that they can come there and at least have clean clothes and you know, be made comfortable, and they'll try to, if they can't provide something to them, they'll direct it. And then they also, we get so much donated that we give a lot to the Council for Haiti, and they will come and collect the other things and send them to the island.
So your congregation donates that?
The congregation and all the people in the neighborhood are extremely generous. I cannot believe how much.
So they bring
donated.
foodstuffs also?
Not food. If they do, we send that right over to Jubilee Kitchen. So it's mostly clothing and kitchen items, that sort of thing, to help people out. Some baby clothes.
How many years now have you been the pastor?
10.
10 years.
10 years last October.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now I'm a full-time hospice chaplain, and I'm with the church some weeknights, but on the weekend. And I just have to make the disclaimer that I'm not speaking today for my company, because I only know of parts of it. You know, I can talk about the spiritual aspect, a little bit of the medical part. So if anybody is interested in finding out if they qualify for services, anything you want to know is at the website, which is www.trustbridge.com, and there'll be people that could talk to you. But what I find
But what kind of services do they offer?
Well,
so our listening audience can have an
primarily, and it's the same at every hospice company, if you find that you have a terminal illness, could be cancer or another physical or dementia or Alzheimer's, you will get visiting nurses, visiting social worker, and spiritual care chaplains. And in Broward, we have myself, we have another Christian chaplain, and we have a rabbi. And then we have many Catholic parishes that are extremely supportive, that the priests will visit the Catholic patients if they...
At their homes or at a special facility?
It is almost primarily in homes.
Oh, but you got a facility.
We have a facility. We used to have one in Memorial South Hospital, but now it's in John Knox Village, and we have another inpatient in Boca. But we have people in nursing homes, in assisted living facilities, and our staff goes to them. Because most people want to stay at home if they possibly can.
So it's not so much about a facility with hundreds of people there.
No, almost nothing to do
most
with
of the people are stationed where they are comfortable, and you offer the services there.
Right, and so we try to support families in keeping their loved ones at home. And some of it is to train the family how to take care of them, and some of it is to have medical staff come in and assist the person. And
what about insurance?
Well,
and cost?
Most
I'm asking these questions to our viewers who are listening to this and got relatives here. We got viewers all over the world, and they got relatives here. They might, contact them and ask them to contact you. What is the cost-wise? Does it go by insurance, personal?
Most of it is covered by Medicare.
Okay.
If you have Medicare or private insurance, we'll cover it. but we also sometimes have people who have come to visit family and become ill while they were here, and then we have foundations where we'll try to locate money to care for that person.
Oh, okay. So if you have someone who cannot afford and have nothing at all, you got some foundations that help if they're qualified.
Yeah, we will try to put you in touch with a foundation that could cover the cost of it. So
and
that
they will do the screening as per se the individual.
Right.
That is phenomenal, I think, and that is something our viewers need to know. Yeah.
And people often misunderstand hospice work. They think that we are somehow invested in making people die, which could not be farther from the truth, because we're committed to giving people the best quality of life they can have for as long as they live. And
so it's more about caring for people.
Right. It may be getting their pain under control, or it may be helping the family find services or receive services to watch the person when they have to go out. You know, there's a multitude of things. But what I find is that many different groups don't know about hospice. So especially Muslim and Hindu people are vastly underserved. They could be getting hospice services for family members. Latino people as well. And
But why do you think they don't know? You think it's because of the fact that they are not told or updated on the details? I think it's because of that, huh?
I think that's part of it, but I also think that there's a cultural mistrust of hospice as well. Many people, especially Caribbean people, think that hospice means that we're going to give them drugs and they will die sooner, which is not true. The people are given only the lowest amount of pain medication to help them with their pain and still be awake and interacting with their families.
Well, actually, you brought a good point up, Reverend. I've heard from some people that in some hospitals, I've got to be very careful, legally and correct here now. In some hospitals, people feel like they're dying more, and they're told that they're closer to death. And when they're sent on the hospice care, they live longer.
Well,
because they're cared for more, they get more love.
Well, that's actually, there's some truth to that, because we find that when people come under our service, they often improve for quite a while. And it is because they're having more attention and they are being cared for properly. Now, in the spiritual area, we don't provide specific religious services. I don't do that much religion with people, although many people, even of different faiths, will ask me to pray with them. It's more about spiritual things. For example, a person may have had a falling out with an adult child, and they know that their time in this world is short, so they would like that relationship to be healed. So it's those kinds of reconciliation and other spiritual issues that people have. People sometimes want to almost have confession with me. There's things they need to get off their chest that they've never told anyone, and they know it will be confidential.
So actually what you're saying is that your interfaith services here, as an interfaith chaplain, it's not only in offering services to the aged or the sick, but it's also to their families.
To the families, yes.
Oh.
Yes, I often am called for some kind of an issue within the family to try to help them clarify what is it, what's causing their conflict, or trying to help them get past some issue. Yeah.
But do you have a lot of cases where you're dealing with these senior citizens, for want of a better word, or elderly, as we say? Do you have cases where you deal with some of them and their children don't speak to them, or they don't speak to their children, or they're grieved for the love of their children? Because you're in an ideal territory that you can experience that.
It happens more often than I wish it would.
You kidding?
Yeah, people are living at a great distance and really choose not to be close, and
But that's very sad.
I unfortunately see many families where there is not much love in the family,
You mean with the children and parents?
Yeah. It's a sad thing.
Do you have any experiences to share? You don't need to call names, like.
Well, you know, when I meet a person, I give them all of my respect and attention and hear what they have to say, and sometimes they reveal that they were not a good parent.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm not judging the adult child because there isn't much contact, but they were not a good parent, and that child never felt particularly blessed or loved, so I understand why there is the distance. And sometimes the parent, as they're nearing the end of their life, would like there to be a reconciliation, but they haven't done the work to do that, and it doesn't happen.
But that's an interesting point you brought up. You know, we always hear about children not showing love to parents.
Right.
But you're a man experienced here with a lot of people. I'm talking about people in their 80s and 90s. Right? 90 plus, you deal with a lot of these cases. And here you're sharing that many of them have confessed that they regret the fact, basically, that they have not been good parents.
That's correct.
And that's an interesting message for the world to hear, because a lot of times people really speak about their children not being loving to them.
Right. We always want to blame the children.
You hear that in the church, you hear it in the school, you hear it all over.
We say, oh, the children today, they're not good. But I very often hear where parents were not good parents, and I understand why the children are not
children
close.
distant themselves.
Right.
So parents have confessed that, and that's a different spin, and I think that's something we probably need to, in the churches, and the religious leaders need to probably share with their congregants to be better parents, because that is a bad seed that they're planting.
Yes.
That's a sad thing, but that gives a lot of problems to people like us.
Yes, it does.
Because when these parents are bad parents, and then their children, and when we say bad parents, we mean they were not loving and kind and caring as they should have been to their children.
Right, they weren't as warm and loving as they could be, or should have been, but yet the children turned out to be very good people, despite they didn't have the warmth that they and the blessing that they should have had. So
wow. And then the children stay away from the parents, stay away from the churches and the mosque and the temples.
Sometimes
they distance themselves from the families. Sometimes.
Yep. Sometimes, but even at the same time, they can be very, very fine people, despite the upbringing that they were given. So you find a lot of very interesting family dynamics. And if a family is dysfunctional and you bring a terminal illness into it, it doesn't make it better.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make it better. So guilt is another spiritual issue that we deal with all the time, where I have families that are very loving, and the children feel that they didn't do enough, and they're guilty, but they did. They took very good care, but something in them wants to somehow blame themselves. So I sometimes have to work with people about letting go of that guilt, that they really were loving and took good care of their parents.
Now, I know legally and professionally you may not be able to answer certain things, but I just want to ask, do you come across some of these senior citizens who are there under the care of hospice having situations like they've given their children everything, and now they are in this age and stage, and the children don't care for them, who have received from their wealth and inherited?
It's very rare. It's very rare. If there's been enough of a relationship to get material benefits, that they generally have had enough emotional ties. So that's I don't find that myself.
Okay, but that is very interesting.
Yeah,
I think that's phenomenal. That's a wonderful experience for you. You know, it's such an experience. It's a blessing for you. It keeps you always going spiritually and morally.
I meet so many interesting people, and I love to hear people's stories. And people will say to me, "Well, no one ever asked me before," And people will say to me, "What do you want to know?" And I'll say, "Well, start at the beginning. Tell me where you were born." And then, they go from there. And I hear what has been important to them, or what has been morally or spiritually important to them, and it's fascinating to hear from people.
Well, that's why we like to have people like you on this show, Who is Who in America, because your experience is very unique. Not everybody would have that kind of experience. Really, true. Not everybody.
That's true.
And
but I can say that probably the most difficult thing for a person to experience who has some kind of a terminal condition, we in our business we have a term called abandonment grief, and what happens is, sometimes when you find that you have cancer or Lou Gehrig's disease or dementia or something, your friends pull away and they stop coming to visit you. And they'll say, well, I can't see them like this. It bothers me too much. So the person is not only grieving that they're coming to the end of their life, it may be a painful disease, but their friends have abandoned them. So they're lonely. So they have to grieve that as well, that no one wants anything to do with them. And people will say to me, oh, it takes a special person to be in hospice and visit. I say, no, it doesn't. You can do it. You have it within you to be present for people. You don't have to have the right words to say. They're not looking for that. They're looking just for your company and your companionship.
Yeah.
Don't abandon them.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that happens throughout life. If someone, even in their life, and they're young and they're in the middle of life and they go through certain things, automatically sometimes people abandon them. Not all the time, but many a times it happens. Sicknesses and success. Well, Reverend, it has really been a pleasure talking to you.
It has
and
been.
We are kind of running out of time, but I want to give you the last say. Anything else you would like to say to our viewers, or any comments you would like to make or you would like to share, feel free.
I think the comment I would like to make is to encourage people to keep forming relationships and community, and don't be afraid. Just keep trying to understand each other and care for each other, and keep building a world community, because I believe that's what God wants for us all. One world, one group of people who are here to bless each other.
Yeah.
So don't give up.
Truly, yeah. And I mean, I must say, you are experiencing that with the patients and the people, to see where that love is important and that togetherness, and why wait to become in that stage and that situation in life, then to realize that you could have done better when you were younger.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, otherwise it may just be too late.
That's right.
Well, thank you again very much. It was really a pleasure to have you.
And it was a pleasure.
I'm sure that our audience would have benefited a lot from your experience, your interfaith experience, your caring for people. And really and truly, there's not very many people who are in that profession and with that experience that you are having. So thank you very much, Reverend. And it has been a pleasure. And I consider it a blessing and an opportunity to be speaking to Reverend Branford, who is the pastor of the First United Church of Christ, and he's also the interfaith chaplain of Trust Bridge Hospice Services. And I'm sure you benefited a lot. Again, I want to repeat that, because the experience that he has and what he experiences with different people and different religions and different people of different faiths is really phenomenal, and it's a good learning for our viewers, for us, so we can probably better our life and our relationship with other people at this time, rather than waiting when it's too late. So thank you very much again for tuning in to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV, which is 24/7 online, and may God bless you, and thank you very much again, Reverend.
It has been my pleasure.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhikmat has been serving the Muslim and non-Muslim communities for the past 30 years through the publishing and distribution of Islamic literature and radio, and also TV programs, plus interfaith activities. Due to the demand and many requests of non-Muslims and new Muslims for Islamic literature, we request you to donate generously $1 fi sabilillah in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards distribution of the Holy Quran, Alhikmat TV 24/7 online, Dawah publications, Surah and Zikr books, genealogy of the prophets, feeding and clothing the poor, orphans, and the needy, students seeking to study Islam, printing of Islamic publications, our monthly Muslim magazine, One God, Same Religion Dawah brochures, Quranic Arabic reader with tajweed for students, and also to support our Dawah activities, you can also contact Alhikmat offices at 954-986-0158 at 954-986-0158, or you can also visit our website at www.alhikmat.com. That is www.alhikmat.com. You can also make checks payable to Alhikmat Services Incorporated, or you can donate with a credit card on PayPal at www.alhikmat.com. Alhikmat TV presents a great way to spread the Sunnah. Have a Sunnah attitude. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in chapter 33, verse 21, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, لَقَدْ كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةً حَسَنًا, that ye indeed in the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a beautiful pattern of conduct. Join us for our 100,000 t-shirt drive. For more details or to place an order, contact Alhikmat Services at 1-800-804-0267, or you can visit us on our website at www.alhikmattv.com. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We're praying Hikmah, right? Well, you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property. Sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years ago, he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Due to the negative propaganda against the Quran and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has become imperative upon us to spread the message of the Quran, inshallah. Therefore, Alhikmat kindly requests your support to pledge and sponsor 100,000 Quran drives on CDs. Join us sponsoring Qur'ans on CDs for free distribution fi sabilillah for Muslims and non-Muslims worldwide. You can also sponsor on behalf of family members and relatives that have passed away as Sadaqah Jariyah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orangefield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrackport. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.